Hello, this is week 12, informational interview reports for career and self-discovery. This is a great week. The teacher materials, the things provided are very simple. Most of the time is given to one activity, which is the students reporting and being asked questions about their informational interview experience that they've had. They should have had 4 to 5 weeks of time to prepare and get this informational interview experience done, and now this class is just to report that. So hopefully most of your students will have completed an informational interview, and we'll talk a little bit more about what to do if they don't have it. So let's dive into this information here. So there's really 4 slides. There's a chapter 8 review, which is that heresy, when you find your calling, the world will take notice. It talks about finding nobility in any kind of work and really having more respect and consideration of jobs you might consider menial work. So there's some great activities that the students will do for the discussion board. When they come into this discussion board, there's 4 options in the end of chapter 8 to choose from. One of them has to do with thinking of people who do menial or underappreciated work, and to have a conversation with someone that they normally wouldn't talk to, just to talk to them. How do they like their job? Just strike up a conversation and write what you learn. The second one is thinking of colleagues you've worked closely with and what qualities they brought to work, what spiritual gifts you might have noticed. The third option is engaging in a deep reflection of how much the praise of the world matters to you. Some really pointed questions there to consider. And the fourth one has them talk with someone in their professional who has done professional work, and ask them about their motivations of work and how the approval of the world might have shaped their decision. So that does tie in quite well with they've had these career conversations or informational interviews. Did they ask about how much does the praise of the world matter to that person? They may not have asked that question, but that was in the discussion board post if they choose that option. So great activities that they'll be coming in with. The review of the chapter and the discussion will need to be brief. The amount of time the informational interview reports take depends on how many students are in your class. If you have a full class of 30 students, you're going to need to do most likely 5 rounds of reports, and they take anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes each, so you might be spending 50 minutes of this lesson just doing those reports and providing those timed rounds. If you have a smaller group, you can group students into groups of 3, and then you only need to do 3 rounds, which gives you a little more time to develop discussion on the chapter, or talk more about the importance of subject matter experts, people who know about their specific career fields, and how you might network with those as a follow-up on the previous lesson of networking and prototyping. So if you have a full-sized class, you need to get to getting the informational interview report started pretty quickly. So the book discussion can be brief, and you jump right into setting up those rounds of reports and giving the instruction on how those will work. Basically, the presenter needs to be identified in each group, so helping them know who's going to start, and then that person is going to explain what career they did the research on and who they interviewed. They will give 2 to 3 minutes a summary of what they learned. So this is just everything that they gained from it. Some students will bring out notes and read quite a bit of information. Others will just kind of give a quick summary of who they met with, things they learned, basic impressions. And wherever they end that summary, the next part is for the rest of the students in their group to ask them questions to draw more out. So these questions are given as samples. You certainly can ask any question you're curious about to provide more information about that informational interview they had. But some questions are given here that students can draw from. If you provide, you can show this slide up at the front so that they have that to refer to. You can also have a printout of this slide at each table so that they have some questions to refer to. Most of the time it does turn into more of a natural conversation and questions they're curious about come out, but these questions are helpful to get that started. So setting up your rounds, there's some instruction in the outline I'm just going to bring up here. So presentations are 4 to 5 rounds. Again, it's depending on your student, so calculate your math and figure out how many are in each group. If you have 5 in a group and only 4 in the other groups, you still need to do 5 rounds because that 5th person is going to need time. If you have groups where you have some of 4, some of 5, you still need to do 5 rounds, and those groups of 4 who finish, they can just join one of the other groups that have a 5th person that needs to present. So you can shuffle people around a little bit as needed for that kind of scenario. If you have the same number in every group, that's the simplest way, and everybody gets a turn to present, everybody gets to ask those questions, and you don't have to move people around at all. So the time for the actual report, again, you need to look at the clock when you jump into this activity to decide how much time you're going to give for each round. 5, 6, 7 minutes, depending on how you're seeing it and how much time you have left in the class and how many rounds you're planning to get through. So again, this just says the assigned presenter will start with a 2 to 3 minute summary, and then the other students will ask those questions. So there are some suggestions for discussion between each round. Again, this will depend on how much time you planned on, how much each round will take. And you might find that your later rounds need to be quick back-to-back rounds without a lot of discussion. Again, just be mindful of the clock on this as well. So it has a suggestion of what you could ask between rounds, and there's not 5 minutes of time between each round. There might be a few minutes for a really quick share out from one of the groups. So again, just be mindful of the clock. So what do you do if a student comes in, they haven't done their informational interview yet? There's something we've done that's helpful between Brianna and myself and others. Have that student tell about who they're planning to interview and what they're hoping to learn and what questions they're going to ask. So it's an opportunity for them to prepare for their interview and share with the students, and they can still ask some of these similar questions that are given. The students can ask them, how did you find this person? Or if they're still struggling to find someone, they can try to network a little more with people in their group of what would you do? Who would you talk to? I'm still trying to find this person to interview. So there's that option, which is let's still have it be focused on their informational interview. Here's who I'm planning to meet with or who I'm looking for. Here's why I want to learn about that. Here's the kind of questions I'm hoping to ask. So that's another way for them to still give their time of their report. Another option is to have them share the 3 things they're still exploring, the 3 careers they're interested in, and why they're interested in those, and then have the other students in their group ask them questions about how are you going to explore that more, and how are you going to decide between those 3, so there can still be a career-related conversation that takes place during that interview time. So no one feels left out, and if they're not fully prepared, having interviewed someone, there's still an option for them to participate in this. So pretty simple. After these reports in class, the journal at the end is going to ask for a written report of their informational interview and to report on their experience from the class. So in Journal 12, they're instructed to just copy and paste part 1 through 3 into a Word document or into the text entry, and then to answer the questions and fill in the information. And they're asked, did you share your report on the informational interview in class? And what other occupations were presented on in your group? And what did you learn about these occupations? So this is why it's good to give them the tip of, you might want to take notes and write down what the other students in your group are presenting on, because that will be a part of your journal to complete. Part 2 is the interview summary. So they're writing the name of the person, the place where they work, the date they interviewed them, and the 10 questions they asked and the interview and a summary of the main points. So this has come in multiple different ways. Sometimes it's, I asked this question and here's this response. And sometimes it's, here's the 10 questions I asked and here's a summary of the things I learned in a paragraph. As you're grading those, you can look at each one. As long as they're listing the questions and a summary, that's what we're looking for. Then the reflection. These are 100-word count essays here. And it's, how do you feel the occupation fits you? Are they considering to continue to pursue it? Does it match their personality, their interests, their values, their skills, their income needs? Are there areas you feel would not be a fit? So that's one essay. And the second, what information, if any, surprised you about the occupation? What information or experiences were shared that were most helpful? Do you feel more likely or less likely to pursue a career like this? So 2 short essays that they're also submitting there. So the group experience, the informational interview reports in however many rounds you set up, and then they'll have this write-up to submit, and they'll report on what other students in their group also presented on. So pretty great day. It's one where you get to just step back and listen and see them reporting on what they learned. So, and then facilitate those transitions, set up those rounds with the specific times. So that's really the main role of today, of this day in class, is make sure they get enough time and enough rounds for everybody to participate. So hopefully that's helpful, and look forward to week 12 in class. Thanks, everyone.